Trust. Fear was my workhorse, anger my constant companion. Contempt, I knew. I could inspire paroxysms of horror with the word. But trust? I hardly knew the meaning of the word. I had no use for it. Certainly it had never done anything for me. Fear, by comparison, was such a useful thing. It could ensure compliance, and even like loyalty. I had wielded fear and intimidation like magic wands to transform an unknown theatre into a world-renowned home of the musical arts. But intimidation would do no good here. What sort of sounds come from a throat tight with terror? Squeaks, screeches, rasps, and stutters. These were not what I wanted from my instrument. She had to be willing, had to want my instruction. She had to accept an invisible hand as guide and master. For the 1000th time, I scanned the note I planned to leave on the piano. Christine, I have decided to permit you to continue working in my theatre. I will also permit you the use of Absindorfia Grande, which you seemed to enjoy last night. There is a condition, and this condition is immutable. Cease your caterwauling and learn to use your fine instrument properly. This is a set of simple vocal exercises. Learn them. Tomorrow night, you shall have your first lesson as soon as you have finished your work. I suggest you hurry. At your peril you choose to ignore my wishes. Signed, the Opera Ghost. Perhaps I'd used a little fear, but only to assure her compliance. Had I not also been kind? Was I not offering her for free what I had had to sneak and steal to get? The promised vocal exercises were not generics copied from some lesson book. I'd used my favorite red ink and my best staff paper. They were beautiful exercises, perfect for her stage of vocal ability, her range, her delicate soprano tone. In writing them, I'd thought of no one but her. I sealed the envelope with my finest sealing wax and placed it on the piano atop the sheet music. I wanted to be there to see her reaction to my generous offer, but most places in the theatre bore too great a risk of discovery. Once again I found myself ascending to the catwalks. There, I waited with a feeling of ineffable satisfaction for this little adventure to unfold. She did not give me a long wait. The boom and clatter of her cart preceded her arrival. Finally, the object of my interest herself stood below me, clad in the same dreadful uniform she'd worn the day before. Her progress was dreadfully slow as she cleaned row after row. The same careful methodicalness that had pleased me the night before now pained me. My heart pounded, my breath was short. I felt my hands slick with cold sweat inside my gloves. When was the last time I had tasted excitement? I had not felt this way since I saw the cornerstone laid on the foundation of my theatre. Now I was certain another great thing was about to come into being. And again, I would be the genius behind the structure. Never mind excitement. How long had it been since I'd felt purpose? There had been a class of high school students in audience tonight. Apparently someone thought it necessary to introduce culture to the plebeian masses. I could have wrung each of their pimply, self-absorbed necks for the mess they had left. Would she even make it to the orchestra pit? Here, she scraped chewing gum. There, she applied a rag and some cleanser to a bit of filth. Without a hint of regard for the sacredness of the music, they had chewed and wallowed and profaned my space. I must remember, I thought, to forbid the managers bringing in any more brats. Finally she wiped the last seat clean. I watched, holding my breath, as she walked to the piano. Her face opened in curiosity when she spied my little present. There. She picked it up and stared in astonishment at her name on the envelope. Open it. Open it, the thought rebounded in my head, echoing and repeating. Slowly, slowly, she turned the envelope over and slid a finger under the flap. Her eyes grew as she read my message, then narrowed in suspicion. She clutched the note as if to crumple it, and I admit my heart may have stopped for a moment. If she crumpled the note, I would. But the note remained in her hand, held tightly, but unsullied. Instead, she looked around as if expecting to see the note's author lurking in every shadowed corner. Of course she saw nothing. The author was lurking above her head. Who's here? She whispered. A moment later, she tried again, louder. Gone was the perfect tone of the night before. Remember what I said about a fear-constricted throat? Who's here? Apparently the echoes of her own voice in the theatre's perfect silence were more than she could handle. Leaving her cart where it stood, she fled into the night. I was hardly worried. I'd seen her employee file and knew what sort of job history she had, shadowing her chances of other employment. I knew she'd be back. She'd left her cart, but taken the sheet music before she ran.